Get that beggar away from my stall. Nobody is buying akara today because of him. He is not doing anything to you, Uduak. Leave him alone. Look at him, Ngozi, dragging himself on those crutches every day. You want to give him free food with the little you have? If I have one piece of akara left, he will always get half. You will die poor because of your soft heart. Then let me die poor with a clean conscience.
Good evening, sir. The company needs you. The shareholders' meeting is in 5 days.
Sir? You mean he is chairman of Amadi Group of Companies, one of the richest men in this country?
Ngozi, everything I told you was a lie. Except one thing. I have never lied about how I feel about you.
Before we continue this story, don't forget to subscribe to T's Tales by Moonlight and turn on your notifications because the twists in this one will shake you. Now let's go back to where it all began. Kelechi Amadi had everything money could purchase and nothing money could protect. At 34, he was already a legend in the business world. Hotels in 3 countries, a shipping empire his late father built from nothing, and a bank account with more zeros than most people could count in a lifetime. But 2 years before this story begins, Kelechi learnt a lesson that money could never undo. Her name was Beatrice. She said she loved him for his laughter, for his kindness, for the way he remembered small details about her life. He believed her. He proposed in front of 300 guests, and she said yes with tears in her eyes. But 3 weeks before their wedding, Kelechi's company survived a hostile takeover attempt, and for 1 week, financial news channels reported, falsely, that Amadi Group had collapsed, and Kelechi had lost almost everything. Beatrice disappeared before the sun rose the next morning. She did not call. She did not explain. She simply returned the engagement ring through a courier with a note that read, "I can't build a life with nothing." The truth came out days later. The company was safe, richer than ever. Beatrice tried to come back. Kelechi did not answer her calls again. That heartbreak planted a question in him that refused to leave. If I had nothing, would anyone still choose me? Every woman who came after Beatrice complimented his cars before they complimented his character. Every smile seemed to calculate his net worth before it reached his eyes. Kelechi grew tired of being loved for what he owned instead of who he was. So he made a decision his mother called reckless and his lawyer called insane. He would disappear. Not with bodyguards, not with credit cards. He would go where nobody knew his face, dressed as a man broken by life, a man on crutches with nothing but the clothes on his back, and he would watch, quietly, to see if kindness still existed in this world for a man who had nothing to offer in return. His assistant, Chidi, begged him to reconsider. "Sir, what if something happens to you out there? You are the only child of your late father. This company has thousands of families depending on it." "That is exactly why I need to know if anyone can love the man before the money, Chidi. Give me 30 days. If I am not back in 30 days, come and find me. And if the board asks questions, tell them I am on a private retreat. Buy me time. 30 days, Chidi. That is all I ask." Chidi did not know that those 30 days would almost cost the company everything. Kelechi shaved off his neatly trimmed beard, wore torn clothes he had never imagined touching his skin, and strapped a brace to one leg to force a limp, and picked up a pair of worn wooden crutches. He traveled 4 hours from the city until the roads turned to red sand and buildings turned to zinc roofs and mud walls. He chose a village called Amaudo, far enough that nobody would recognize the face that used to appear on business magazine covers. On his first morning in Amaudo's market, Kelechi understood immediately how the world treats a man who appears to have nothing. Traders waved him away from their stalls before he could even speak. Children pointed and laughed at the way his crutches dragged in the sand. A cloth seller kicked dust in his direction and told him to beg somewhere else. An hour into his first day, hungry and humiliated, Kelechi sat by his stall selling akara, hot, golden bean cakes wrapped in old newspaper, and simply watched people eat. That was where he met Ngozi. She was maybe 24, with tired eyes that still somehow held warmth, hands roughened from years of frying akara before sunrise every single day. Her stall was small, her prices lower than everyone else's, because she said no child in Amaudo should go to school hungry if she could help it. Kelechi, get that beggar away from my stall. Nobody is buying akara today because of him, a rival seller named Uduak shouted, the same scene that would later open this very story. He's not doing anything to you, Uduak. Leave him alone, Ngozi replied without even looking up from her frying pan. Look at him, Ngozi, dragging himself on those crutches like a dying dog. You want to give him free food with the little we have? If I have one piece of akara left, he will always get half. You will die poor because of your soft heart. Then let me die poor with a clean conscience. Kelechi sat quietly through the exchange, humiliation burning in his chest, though this humiliation was different from any he had ever felt in a boardroom. Nobody had ever mocked him to his face before. Nobody had ever needed to. Ngozi wrapped 2 pieces of akara in newspaper and walked over to him without a word, placing it gently in his lap. Eat. It is still hot. Why are you helping me? Everyone else here treats me like a disease. Because hunger does not check a man's story before it enters his stomach. Eat. Kelechi ate in silence that day, and something in him, something that had gone cold since Beatrice, began quietly to thaw. Days passed. Kelechi returned to Ngozi's stall every morning, and every morning, without fail, she gave him food before she gave it to any paying customer. When he tried to help her carry firewood with his weak leg, she scolded him for straining himself. When rain caught him without shelter one evening, she brought him home to meet her mother, a widow named Mama Ngozi, who welcomed him with the same warmth Ngozi carried. We don't have much, but you will not sleep in the rain while we have a roof. For the first time in years, Kelechi slept in a house with cracked walls and felt safer than he had ever had in his marble mansion. But peace never lasts long in a story like this. Uduak, the akara seller who despised Kelechi from day one, was not simply cruel by nature. She had her own ambitions. Her cousin, a wealthy trader named Obina, had been trying for months to marry Ngozi, offering to lift her and her mother out of poverty forever. Ngozi had refused him 3 times already, and Uduak could not understand why any woman would choose hunger over comfort. Ngozi, Obina is willing to build your mother a proper house. He will send you to learn a trade in the city, and you are wasting your kindness on a crippled beggar who cannot even fetch his own water? I never asked Obina for a house, and Nonson, she paused, using the name Kelechi had given her, has never once asked me for anything. That is because he has nothing to give. Maybe that is exactly why I trust him. Obina did not take rejection quietly. He began spreading rumors in the village that Ngozi was wasting her family's future on a stranger nobody knew, a man who could be a criminal, a runaway, even a spirit in disguise sent to bring misfortune. Some elders began to whisper the same fears to Mama Ngozi. Ngozi, are you not afraid? Nobody knows where this man came from. What if trouble follows him into your house? Trouble already lives in this world whether we open our doors or not. I would rather open mine to a stranger than close it on a man in need. Obina did not stop at rumors. He went first to Uduak, pressing money into her palm, urging her to make life so unbearable for Ngozi at the market that she would have no choice but to accept his proposal out of exhaustion. Uduak, hungry for the reward Obina dangled in front of her, began accusing Ngozi openly of witchcraft, telling anyone who would listen that no woman feeds a stranger for free unless she has been bewitched by him. You have all seen it. She gives away food we cannot afford to give. She defends a beggar nobody wants near their stall. Something is not right with Ngozi, and I will not stand by and watch this village fall under whatever spell that man has cast. Some traders, afraid of the word witchcraft more than they were afraid of hunger, quietly stopped buying from Ngozi's stall altogether. For 3 days, her sales fell by half, and still she wrapped a piece of akara for Kelechi every single morning without hesitation, even as her savings shrank in front of her. Kelechi noticed the empty space where customers used to stand. Ngozi, your sales have suffered because of me. Perhaps I should leave. If I let fear decide who I feed, then I have already lost more than any of this can cost me. Stay. Meanwhile, far from Amaudo, the ticking clock Kelechi had set in motion was beginning to strike. Back in the city, Chidi was drowning. Kelechi's uncle, Chief Augustine Amadi, his late father's younger brother, who had never forgiven his brother for leaving the company entirely to Kelechi, saw his nephew's disappearance as an opportunity of a lifetime. When the 30-day mark approached and Kelechi still had not returned, Chief Augustine moved quickly. Board members, my nephew has vanished without explanation for over a month. An acting family head, I am proposing we declare him incapacitated and appoint an interim chairman, myself, until and if he resurfaces. Chief Augustine, Kelechi asked for privacy. He instructed us to wait, Chidi argued desperately in the emergency meeting. And where is he now, Chidi? Privacy does not last a lifetime. This company employs 11,000 families. We cannot gamble their futures on the whereabouts of one young man chasing whatever nonsense he is chasing. The board scheduled an emergency vote. 5 days. If Kelechi did not appear in person within 5 days, control of Amadi Group would pass, at least temporarily, into Chief Augustine's hands that had already, quietly, begun negotiating to sell off the company's most profitable subsidiaries to a rival conglomerate for a personal fortune that would make his takeover permanent no matter what happened afterward. Chidi sent every trusted driver, every discreet investigator he could hire in every direction, searching villages within a day's drive of the city. He was running out of time and running out of leads. Back in Amaudo, Kelechi's bond with Ngozi had grown into something neither of them was fully willing to name yet. He had learned to make her laugh even through her exhaustion. She had taught him to fry akara, badly at first, burning 3 batches before Mama Ngozi banned him from the pan entirely, laughing so hard she had to sit down. You are a terrible cook, Nonson. I have many other talents. Name one. I am an excellent listener. That at least is true. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sun bleed orange over the rooftops, Ngozi asked him the question he had been dreading. Nonson, where is your family? Does no one wonder where you are? Kelechi's chest tightened. The lie sat heavy on his tongue, heavier every day he let it live there. I have a family. It is complicated. I left because I needed to know something about myself I could not learn any other way. What is that? Whether the life I had was worth returning to. And have you learnt it? He looked at her, at the flower still dusting her wrist, her tired eyes that had never looked at him with pity, only patience, and something inside him answered before his mind could stop it. Yes, I think I have. Obina, however, was done waiting. Humiliated by 3 public rejections and fueled by Uduak's constant provocation, Obina made his final move. He went to Mama Ngozi privately, offering to clear a debt the family had carried silently for 2 years, a debt to a moneylender who had begun to threaten to seize the small plot of land their house stood on. Pay up your debt, Mama Ngozi, and give me Ngozi's hand, or watch the moneylender take the roof over your heads within the month. Mama Ngozi, terrified and exhausted, broke down and told Ngozi everything. Mama, why did you never tell me about this debt?
because I did not want you to marry out of fear instead of love. But my daughter, I don't know what else to do." Ngozi's hands trembled as she sat with the weight of an impossible choice. The only family she had against a heart that had quietly chosen someone with, as far as she knew, absolutely nothing to offer in return. She turned to Kelechi that night, desperate, not for money, but for comfort. "They want to take our home. Obena says he will save us if I marry him." Kelechi felt something break inside him, the same helplessness that made him leave his old life in the first place, except now it was aimed at someone he loved, and he had no way, as a poor crippled stranger, to protect her. He loved her. He knew it in that instant. "Ngozi, listen to me. Whatever happens, I will not let harm come to you or your mother. I promise you that." "How? You have nothing. I have nothing. What can either of us do against this kind of debt?" He almost told her the truth that night. The words rose to his throat and nearly spilled out, but fear stopped him. Fear that the moment she knew who he really was, she would see him the way Beatrice once had, not as a man, but an escape route. He swallowed the truth back down, and it cost him. The next morning, Chidi's search finally succeeded. A driver recognized a description matching Kelechi at a bus stop 3 villages from Amaudo, and after following whispered directions from a market woman who remembered a strange, kind, crippled man who fixed a child's broken toy with his bare hands, Chidi's convoy finally rolled into Amaudo's dusty market square with only 2 days left before the board's vote. The reveal was instant and it was public. Every trader froze. Uduak's mouth opened. Ngozi stood frozen beside her frying pan, watching the crutches she had defended for weeks fall uselessly to the ground as the beggar she had defended rose to his full height, unaided, dressed suddenly in the authority of a man everyone in that market had underestimated. "Sir, thank God we found you. The board vote is in 2 days. Your uncle has already begun selling company assets." The market erupted in murmurs. Uduak, stunned but recovering quickly, could not resist. A billionaire. All this time, Ngozi said nothing. Her eyes fixed on Kelechi were not filled with wonder or excitement. They were filled with something closer to grief. "Ngozi, please, let me explain. You let my mother almost lose her home to a man threatening us while you sat there with the power to end all our suffering in one phone call, and you said nothing? I was afraid that the moment you knew, you would only see money, the way everyone always has. So you instead let me believe I loved a helpless man while you watched me struggle to choose between my mother's safety and my own heart. That is not caution, nonsense. It is cruelty wearing a disguise. My name is Kelechi, and everything else, every laugh, every quiet evening, every moment I felt like myself again for the first time in years, none of that was a lie. You have 2 days to save your company, Kelechi. Go and save it. I need time to understand what just happened to my life."
Kelechi left Amaudo with Chidi that same afternoon, heart torn between the empire waiting to be stolen from him and the woman whose trust he had just broken with his own hands. The 4-hour drive back to the city felt longer than the entire 30 days he had spent in the village. Chidi, watching his boss stare blankly out of the window, finally spoke. "Sir, we found you just in time. Another day and the board vote would have gone forward without you." "Chidi, I have spent years protecting a company from men like my uncle, and one afternoon protecting my own heart from a woman I love, and I have failed at the second one completely." "She will understand, sir. Give her time." "Time is the one thing I have never learned how to manage where it truly matters." Before he left, he did one thing quietly without telling Ngozi. He paid off the moneylender's entire debt in full, anonymously through Chidi, and instructed his lawyers to draft protective legal ownership of the land directly into Mama Ngozi's name, so that no one, not Obina, not the moneylender, not even Kelechi himself, could ever threaten that home again. The board meeting arrived like a storm. Chief Augustine stood before the room, confident, already halfway through his victory speech, when the doors opened and Kelechi walked in. Thinner, sun-darkened, but unmistakably alive, unmistakably in control. Chief Augustine, I believe you called a meeting to discuss my incapacitation. The room fell into stunned silence. Kelechi, we thought, that is, we were merely protecting the company's interest in your prolonged absence by secretly negotiating the sale of our shipping subsidiary to our biggest competitor for a personal payout routed through 3 shell companies registered in your wife's name, yes? Chidi has already handed the documents to the board's legal counsel this morning. Gasps rippled through the room. Chief Augustine's face drained of color. These are lies. The wire transfers say otherwise, uncle. The vote that had been scheduled to strip Kelechi of his company instead became the vote that stripped Chief Augustine of his position on the board entirely, with legal proceedings to follow. Amadi Group was safe. 11,000 families kept their jobs. But the man who saved them stood in that boardroom feeling emptier than he had in years, because the one thing his money could not fix waited 4 hours away in a village that taught him more about love in 30 days than his entire life in the city ever had. In the days that followed, his mother, watching her son move through the mansion like a ghost, finally sat him down. Kelechi, I have not seen you smile like the way your driver described since your father was alive. Whatever you found in that village, do not let pride cost you twice. I broke her trust, mother. Then go and rebuild it. A man who runs from his mistakes only carries them further. As if the universe wished to test him one last time, Beatrice reappeared during that same week, having heard through the city's gossip circles that Kelechi was in fact richer and more powerful than ever, and very much unmarried. Kelechi, I made a terrible mistake leaving you. I was young and foolish. I still love you. Can we not start over? You did not leave a man, Beatrice. You left a headline, and headlines are not something I intend to marry again. He turned her away without a flicker of hesitation, something the old Kelechi, hungry for approval, might never have managed. Amaudo had changed him more than he realized. 2 weeks passed before Kelechi returned to Amaudo, not disguised this time, not hiding behind crutches or a false name, but exactly as himself, in a simple shirt, driving himself alone. He found Ngozi at her stall, still frying akara before sunrise, still giving free food to children who had nothing, exactly as she always had, money or no money, changing anything about who she was. You came back. I told you I would not let harm come to you or your mother. I meant it, even after everything I did wrong. The land papers arrived last week. My mother cried for an hour. That was not a bribe, Ngozi. It was a debt I owed you for the 30 days you fed a stranger without asking for anything in return. And this, you, standing here in front of me without crutches, without a disguise, what is this? This is a man asking you to choose him, not because he has nothing and not because he has everything, but because for the first time since I lost my father, I feel like myself only when I am near you. Ngozi was quiet for a long moment. Memories of every mocked morning, every whispered rumor, every night she chose a poor crippled stranger over a wealthy suitor rising in her chest. Uduak will never let me hear the end of this. Let her talk. I did not fall in love with your reputation in the market. I fell in love with the way you fed a hungry man before you fed your own pride. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time since the truth had come out, and something between them finally settled into place. The wedding took place in Amaudo, not in the city, at Ngozi's insistence, under the same tree where Kelechi had once sat with crutches, humiliated and hungry. The whole village came, some out of celebration, some simply out of disbelief that the beggar they once kicked dust at now stood under a canopy of white and gold, waiting for the woman who fed him. Uduak attended too, humbled, having lost most of her customers after word spread of how she treated the beggar who turned out to be a billionaire, and of the money Obinna had paid her to spread rumors of witchcraft. She approached Ngozi quietly before the ceremony began. "I said cruel things about you, Ngozi. I am ashamed of the woman I was. Kindness costs nothing, even when a person appears to have nothing. That is the only lesson I ever needed you to learn." Obinna did not come. He quietly left the village altogether, unable to face the community after his threats against Mama Ngozi and his bribery of Uduak became public knowledge. Some say he resurfaced years later in a distant town, still chasing wealthy strangers, never once learning the lesson that had cost him everything in Amaudo. Kelechi did not simply marry into Amaudo, he built into it. Within a year, a small clinic rose at the edge of the market, offering free treatment and mobility devices to anyone in the region living with a disability. Real crutches, real wheelchairs, real surgeries for people who, like him, had no fortune waiting behind their disguise. Beside it, a training center taught trade skills to widows and struggling families so that no mother would ever have to choose between her daughter's heart and a roof over her head. At the opening ceremony, Kelechi stood before the villagers who once threw him out of stalls and kicked dust at his crutches, Ngozi beside him, her mother in the front row, and said the words that would follow him for the rest of his life. "I came to this village pretending to have nothing, to learn if anyone could love a man who appeared to have nothing at all. I found more than love. I found a family that fed me when I was hungry, sheltered me when I was afraid, and taught me that true wealth is not what sits in a bank account, but what a person is willing to give when they believe no one is watching. This place will always be their family, the way Ngozi and her mother became mine." A year later, a small child, Ngozi and Kelechi's daughter, sat in the same market square watching her mother fry akara out of habit rather than necessity, still giving pieces away to hungry children who wandered by. Some traditions, it seemed, no fortune could ever replace.
And this is the story of a billionaire who traded his empire for a pair of crutches, searching for proof that he was worth loving without his fortune. He found it in a woman who fed a stranger before she ever fed her own pride, and in a mother who gave everything without asking anything back. His lies nearly cost him that love, but true love, once tested by truth, only grows stronger. In the end, Kelechi built his greatest legacy not in boardrooms, but in the quiet, unshakable kindness of the home that once took in a broken beggar and called him family.
If this story touched something in you, drop a comment and tell us, would you have recognized real love the way Ngozi did? Give this video a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness is never wasted, and subscribe to Tease Tales by Moonlight so you never miss the next story. Thank you for watching and stay blessed.